You're all set.
Okay, great. Good evening, everyone. Then I'd like to call to order the Tiverton Town Council regular meeting of Monday, July 27th. I see that Councilor Edwards has our flag. We'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To
to
the
the
flag
of the United States of America,
and to the republic
for
which stands
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
God,
God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Deputy Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Yes, I would. Counselor Hilton,
Present.
Counselor DiMederos,
Present.
Counselor Driggs, Counselor Clark,
Present.
Counselor Perry,
Present.
Counselor Cook,
Present.
and Counselor Edwards.
Where'd he go?
I'm back.
John's there. Okay.
Cox Communications and Sprint, they're two companies that don't do well with the internet.
All right. Well, we're all present, as well as Solicitor Marcello and Deputy Clerk Jeannie V. The consent agenda. Item A, approval of town council minutes, June the 22nd, regular session, May the 26th, which was continued to 5/29 executive session. July 7th, special meeting, July 13th, regular session, July 13th, executive session. Item B, acknowledge receipt of minutes from boards and commissions. There are 2 sets of minutes from the Board of Canvassers, 3 sets of minutes from the Budget Committee, and 1 set from the Planning Board. Item C, acknowledge receipt of reports. The first is the Treasurer's Office memorandum reporting financial status as of June 30th, 2020. And number 2 is Jennifer Siciliano, the Town Planner and Administrative Officer, report of activities of Planning Department and Planning Board for June 2020. Item D, acknowledge receipt of correspondence. There's 1 from the town of Little Compton, a resolution condemning racism and urging efforts to recognize and stop racism. And finally, item E, the approval of the tax assessor abatements. Would anyone like to remove an item from the consent agenda? No? In that case, do I have a motion to approve the entire consent agenda? John?
So moved.
A motion?
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. All in favor. Counselor Driggs,
Aye.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
Counselor Clark,
Yes.
Counselor DiMederos,
Yes.
Counselor Edwards,
Yes.
and I'm also a yes.
I wasn't asked.
Oh, I'm
I'm a
sorry,
yes.
Donna. I apologize.
I'm a yes.
Counselor Cook?
I'm a yes.
Okay,
Trish.
sorry about that.
Trish,
Yes,
I just have a question. Do you guys hear interference with me right now?
No, whatever you've done tonight is fantastic.
it's
Okay,
perfect.
thank you.
Public comments. I don't believe that we have received any tonight.
There were none.
I didn't think so. So we'll move on to public hearings advertised. Jose Cabral and Tricia Berner, 267 Deer Run Road, request approval of a sound variance and special event permit for a wedding on September 19, 2020 from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m., subject to meeting all legal requirements. I don't know, Mr. Town Administrator, whether the applicants are here or not and would like to speak, or?
They are not. There are 3 people in the waiting room, but they have nothing to do with this particular item.
Okay, in that case, I'm going to ask our deputy clerk that, as far as we know, the clerk's office has reviewed this, and we believe that all the requirements have been met. It looks like that from the application.
That is correct.
Okay, and just so everybody knows, including the folks at home, it's a wedding on September 19th from 6 to 11. There'll be an acoustic guitar and singer, and then music in the house, actually. Afterwards, within a, so I don't think there's an attendance, but we don't require that. It sounds like it's going to be a great family wedding. The abutters have been notified. I don't think that anybody has obviously come forward with any objections. So Denise?
Were they asked to participate this evening?
I don't know. Jeannie, do you know if they were contacted and given the opportunity?
I don't believe so. I'm not sure if
Okay,
they were requested to join the meeting.
okay. Well, that's not uncommon. Sometimes these applications come from in front of us and we don't see the applicant. So does anybody have any questions or comments? And if not, is there a motion? John?
Madam President, I'll make a motion to approve the sound variance and special event permit for the wedding on September 19th, 2020 from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. For Jose Cabral and Tricia Bernier, 267 Deer Run Road, subject to meeting all legal requirements.
I'll second it with discussion.
Okay, Denise?
This is a public hearing, so were we supposed to open this to the public?
Oh, whoops. I misspoke.
Yes.
We can have a public hearing now.
So we can have the public hearing. Chris didn't think there was anybody in the waiting room.
Oh, I know, but I think we still
I
have
know
to
for
say it,
this
right?
piece of it. So good point.
I'll ask,
My
Is there
apologies.
anyone-
I jumped the gun. I'm sorry.
so,
That's all right. Chris, is there anybody in the waiting room who would like to speak on this?
so if there's anybody in the waiting room who would like to speak on this particular matter, please raise your hand.
Or if there's anyone listening online and would like to call into the meeting, the number is 877-853-5247. You mean 877-853-5247. And the meeting ID is 974-8471-0941 with a passcode of 900-160. It's also on the agenda that's been posted on the Secretary of State's website.
Correct. I'll ask those again in the waiting room the second time. If anybody has any issue with this, would like to speak, please raise your hand. And I'll wait just a minute to see if anybody calls in.
While we're waiting, I have a question for the solicitor. I don't think it's a problem, but can we grant both of these in one motion? In the past, we've usually done them separately, but the motion is for both of them. We can do that, yes?
Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure we were good on that.
So I'm going to ask for the third time in the waiting room, if anybody wants to speak on this public hearing for the sound variance and special event permit, please raise your hand. Hearing none, Council President, the matter is back to you.
Thank you. In that case, if there's no other, Steve's got his hand up. Yes, Steve?
Yeah, I see a list of 12 names here. I assume those are the abutters and that they have been notified.
Yes.
Is that correct? Can somebody verify that?
Yes, that is correct.
All right, thank you.
If there's nothing else, we'll go to a vote. Councilor DiMederos,
Yes.
Councilor Driggs,
Yes.
Councilor Clark,
Yes,
Councilor Perry,
Yes.
Councilor Cook,
Yes.
Councilor Edwards,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. So best wishes to the applicants for a happy wedding and wonderful marriage. Moving on, appointments and resignations. We have one for the Arts Commission. It's a one-year term to April 15, 2021. There's one vacancy. We will have one applicant, Mr. William Vieira of 30 Leppies Road, requesting new appointment. Chris, is Bill in the waiting room?
He's in the panelist group now.
Oh, excellent. Hi, Bill. Welcome.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for having me.
So, Bill, what we usually do with applicants is just, and I know that you've been fairly thorough on in your application, but just for the benefit of the counselors and folks at home, if you could just give us a little bit of background on your interest in joining the Arts Council, that would be great.
Sure. So my name is William Vieira. I am a resident here in Tiverton. I have been for 48 years now. I work for a branch of the Social Security Administration called the Office of Hearings and Appeals. I have been there for 14 years now, married for 26 years, have a daughter who's 18, getting ready to go to college. And I just think it's about time that life has afforded me the opportunity now to try to help out around the town and become an active member.
That's awesome. Does anybody on the council have a question for Mr. Vieira? John?
Yes, you are, Bill, you're the same Bill that's running for town council, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I had the right guy. Just so you know, I think when if you were to win the council seat, I think you'd have to resign from the Arts Council. Just wanted to make sure you were aware of that.
Yeah, I figured there were always liaisons. So I figured if the event that I do win in November, I could switch over to a liaison situation there.
Perfect.
It was a win-win situation.
Thank you.
Denise?
I'd like to make a motion to waive our policy and appoint Bill this evening.
Second.
There's a motion and a second, then Counselor Driggs?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Counselor Perry? Joe?
You lost Joe. Good.
Joe, are you a yes?
He's
Yeah.
muted.
Joe, you're
Thumbs up.
muted.
Joe,
How about give us a thumbs up?
yeah, Joe, you're muted.
Thumbs up or thumbs down, Joe?
Thumbs up, Joe, or thumbs down?
Can't he hear?
John, can you get your
John, put up
unmute
the
speaker
sign
again?
again.
I'm sorry?
Can
Put
you
up
get
sign
your
up?
unmute sign? There we go. Joe? Perry, are you a yes or a thumbs up?
He's a yes.
Yes, I think that's a yes.
Yeah.
Counselor Clark,
Yes.
Counselor Cook,
Yes.
Counselor DiMederos,
Yes.
Counselor Edwards,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. So, yes, Denise.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint William James Vieira to the Arts Council. 1 year term, 4/15, expires 4/15/2021.
Second.
Okay. And there's no discussion, I'm assuming, so we'll go to a roll call vote. Counselor DiMederos,
Yes.
Counselor Driggs,
Yes.
Counselor Clark,
Yes.
Counselor Perry, Joe?
I'm
Oh.
texting him.
Joe, are you a yes? Thumbs up or thumbs up here? Counselor Edwards?
Can we unmute
Yes.
him?
I'm texting him.
Andrew, can you unmute him?
Counselor Cook?
I've tried.
Yes.
Joe's still muted, though.
I can't get him unmuted.
Oh, he's gone.
Now he's
Not
gone.
well.
He's probably going to dial back in.
We have Bill Vieira here.
Yes, we have Bill here. I'm assuming that Counselor Perry is trying to dial back in and see if he can get a better connection. That's what I'm guessing.
Yeah, I'm texting him right now.
Okay.
So am I.
Okay.
While you're texting him, he's trying to dial back in, going, why are they texting me? I'm trying to dial back in.
Oh, wait a minute. Oh, he's
I think
having
it's-
trouble with his computer.
I think it's safe to say that we have enough votes to appoint Mr. Vieira.
I think we do.
Oh, he's voting on my, he said yes to everything, and I'm having trouble with my computer. I'm trying to, he's trying to get back on.
Denise, in case he can't, could somebody text him the
Yeah.
phone number and the passcode in case he has to dial in if he can't get his computer to work?
Okay,
I'll send it to him right now.
Okay.
He's back on. I see the screen.
Okay. There you are, Joe. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm
back now. Trouble with my computer.
Okay, perfect. And you were a yes on that last vote for appointment? Yes. Okay, excellent. Bill, congratulations and welcome to the Arts Committee.
Thank you very much.
All right,
Thank you,
for-
Bill.
Thanks for volunteering.
Thank
All right, moving on to item 9, because we don't have any item 8s, which is Board of Licensing General Business. So item A, under the town administrator, approval for payment of outstanding legal invoices. The first is from Cameron and Middleman dated February 18th for $10,066. And the second is for the law office of Jeannie Scott dated October 2019 for $6,470. Chris, I'll let you.
Okay, I have them on because they're two bills that I am totally unfamiliar with. I do know that Cameron Middleman did have Geo as their attorney, but we've also been told that he wasn't representing the town. And so I'm just confused as to whether or not we should pay this bill.
What's the confusion, Chris?
Excuse me, I didn't hear you.
What is the confusion about whether or not we should pay it?
So I don't know if he was representing us during this time frame. And I wasn't here, so I just didn't want to pay a bill that, came from the firm if he wasn't representing us during that time frame.
What was the time frame?
I'm trying to pull the bill up now. It is for this, for the month of December of 2019.
Yeah, he definitely resigned. I thought he resigned.
Not until we get a new solicitor.
So he did represent us then. That's I'm fine. I'll pay it as long as I get somebody to say that he represents us.
Well, when did Mike come on board? It was
January.
Yeah, so he was still the solicitor.
Okay.
I think that he definitely attended a number of the meetings in December, particularly the meetings where we were reviewing candidates for the solicitor. I know we only had one regular meeting in December. I think we didn't hold our second one, but I do think that's okay.
So the second one is for Jeannie Scott, who is.
Can we have a motion to pay that bill, please, just so it's the record's clear?
Yeah. Okay.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All right, we'll take a vote. Counselor Driggs,
Yes.
Counselor Clark,
Yes.
Counselor Edwards,
Yes.
Counselor Cook,
Yes.
Counselor Perry. Joe? Joe's a yes, and I'm also a yes. All right, so on to the second one, which is a bill from Jeannie Scott.
So,
Or do you want to let Chris go through it first and then?
So she has a letter to me saying that she contracted with the town to do some work as it related to the comprehensive plan. And I don't have any contract with her. What I believe she did was she was assigned by Geo to do this work, or hired by Geo, but the town has no contract with this woman. She did bring some materials to the planner as it related to the work that she says that she's done. But I was, again, just uncomfortable paying a bill that I have no contract for. And I don't know if people on the council were aware of this arrangement with Jeannie Scott.
The council never authorized or entered into any sort of agreement with Attorney Scott. She was hired solely at the discretion of Geo via Cameron and Middleman as a subcontractor for them, working apparently on whatever was assigned. I mean, honestly, I don't even know what the work was that she was assigned, to tell you the truth.
I have it in front of me. If I could, it's a big Tiverton comprehensive plan implementation project, and her name is on several, it says action items, what they were working on. We were supposed to do something with this, and her name on what she did is on this document of several pages. I can always give it to you, Chris. I don't know if that helps.
Well,
I haven't seen a copy of that.
I do have work product that went to our planner. So there is work that she did. My only issue is, did she do it and was supposed to be paid for by the firm of Cameron Middleton? Or was it because we don't have a direct contract from Tiverton directly with her?
Well, can I ask a question?
Hang on, Nancy. Denise has had her hand up. Let me get to Denise first. Denise?
Yeah, I'm concerned about this too, because we did not hire her. Cameron and Middleton did to do some of the work. And I don't know if we're responsible for paying this.
I don't know that we are either. Nancy Drakes, you had a,
I guess that's my question. And I think it would be pretty easy to answer whether Cameron Middleman, and I honestly don't remember, I certainly remember her name and she being involved in what Donna just mentioned. I don't know the contractual arrangement of how that happened. And if Cameron Middleman are the ones who sort of sent her in as a subcontractor or something, then maybe they need to submit a bill that includes her work. Anyway.
well, the other question I have is that Cameron and Middleman, Geo arranged through Cameron and Middleman to do some work on the community comprehensive plan that I believe we've already paid the bill for.
Right.
That I don't know. Do you have what bill was paid? Is it the same bill?
There was a bill that was paid out of it. There was money set aside in an account. And at some point there was a discussion about it at the council table, and Geo sort of offered and said, well, we can do that. And I don't remember if there was a vote or not, but the then council consensus was okay. And I believe that bill has been paid. And I believe that the work that we're getting a bill for Jeannie Scott from was under that arrangement. Joe Perry, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, my question is, why wait so long to say? Shouldn't they have been like every 2 or 3 months? And wait till from July of last year, it's been a year on stuff. Why would she wait until we submit this?
Wow.
Should have been
I
paid
can't
every
hear him.
so many, I would think.
I can't
Joe's
make
just
out.
asking why it took so long for these bills to be submitted.
It would seem to
Hang on one second. The solicitor would like to speak first. Nancy, go ahead. Mike.
So Joe, thank you for that question. In fairness to Jeannie Scott, soon after I became solicitor in January or February, I believe I received a letter from her indicating from her that she was seeking payment for the services that she rendered. At the time, I gave the letter to Jan because I was also unfamiliar with it. And I told her that we were reviewing it. Recently, within the last maybe a month or two, I got another letter from her wondering what the status of payment was. I then forwarded that to Chris, and Chris, did the research and found out that there was allegedly no contract. And so that's kind of where this came. So it wasn't like she did wait. She did seek payment pretty quickly right after the first of the year. In fact, she contacted me right after I was appointed, asking if she could continue the work and be of assistance as a subcontractor to me, and that just wasn't permissible by my firm. But so that there was some communication, Joe.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Nancy.
I think all invoices that I've ever seen specify what the work done was. So it seems to me that there would be a way to double check whether we've already paid this bill to somebody else for the work that we're now being billed for, or whether
Yeah, you can't see my hand. Go ahead, Denise. I just want.
Actually, John's got his hand up first, so let me get to John, and then I'll get to Denise, and then.
I was just going to say, I feel uncomfortable. I mean, not knowing what sort of arrangement former solicitor Ciccione had, I feel uncomfortable paying a bill for something where there was no direct contract with the town. I mean, if anything, the Attorney Scott, I think, should submit her bill to payment from Cameron and Middleman if there was a subcontractor arrangement, because without a direct contract, and I'm sure Attorney Marcello would agree with this, that, there's nothing to stand on here. I mean, if we're going to pay this bill, then anybody can just make up a work product and demand payment for it. So,
well, that's not true. I have the work product in front of me. I know
none of
what
us
you're
do,
saying.
though.
Well,
Hang on, Donna, let me get to Denise and then I'll get back to you.
Well-
Denise?
No,
Denise?
Donna can speak before me if she wants.
Okay.
no,
because
I just want to say, probably the treasurer would have or should have information on what was paid and not paid, or if this attorney did submit a bill, or if it was paid or how it was paid. I guess would have to ask that, right? She's supposed to have the receipts.
I would suggest that we defer this item until there's some determination as to, because I do believe that the firm of Cameron and Middleman was already paid, if not the entire amount, a large portion of the amount of that $30,000 that was there to do that work. So if we've already paid Cameron and Middleman to do it, then, then Attorney Scott, who was clearly a subcontractor for them, because we didn't hire her, the council didn't ever, approve this. I'm not saying that Cameron and Middleman didn't have the right to hire her. And it may mean that she has to work it out with them. So I might suggest that we look into this a little further and see whether or not it was covered under the payment that, or is part of the work product that was supposed to be produced under the payment to Cameron and Middleman. John?
Are we going to have the same issue when it comes back up again? Because I noticed in the letter from Cameron and Middleman for the $10,000 that there's a sub amount, $2,333 for Attorney Favish. And if I recall correctly, he was also a subcontractor under Cameron and Middleman. So
he was, although we did have a direct arrangement with him in terms of paying when he took on the role of administrative officer for planning, which he held for a little while. And so that I'm not sure, we'll have to check it, but if that's what that is, if that's the AO stipend for his some period of time as the administrative officer, then that will make sense. But
it just
he's
seems
got
to me
send
that
us a bill.
this is
No
a pretty
bill.
this is a pretty gray area,
Right.
So it'd be nice to have some more clarity.
Yes. Counselor Driggs?
Before anyone casts aspersions or, thinks something weird is going on, I think it's all easily answerable. I think we need to talk to Cameron Middleman and say, this is, or check what we paid them for in their invoice as to the work that we paid them for. If it is duplicative of what this woman is now asking for, then that gives us some clarity, and she needs to go to them to be reimbursed. But I think the answers, very easily ascertained answers.
So might I suggest that we continue this item until there's a little more information about it?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Second.
Can I say something? I just want to say something.
Yes, Donna, go ahead.
Is there a need to have a different policy when it comes to I'm just going to use Mike as an example. Sorry, Mike. Let's say Mike decides to hire someone to help him out, and he doesn't pay them, and they've done the work. I know it makes us not responsible, but still, they still did the work for the town and they're left not paying. How is that resolved so that this doesn't happen again? Because it really isn't fair, because it really looks like she did a lot of work.
Can I talk?
Well, let Mike, I think Donna was asking Mike for an answer, then I'll get to you.
Oh, I'm
Denise.
sorry. There's no, it really depends upon what the council agreement was with your prior solicitor. Apparently, there was an ability for that solicitor to go out and hire other counsel as subcontractors.
Yes, he was.
Without the approval of the council, because that's apparently what his contract said. I can tell you, just from my perspective, I would never hire another lawyer outside of my firm as a policy without the council. Without permission from the council, to avoid these kind of things, because I prefer that the council pay any lawyer that they hire outside of my firm directly, and enter into a separate legal contract with them, because for a couple of things. One, it clarifies the legal relationship between the town and that attorney. It also provides the town with assurance that hopefully that attorney would be responsible if something bad happens. You could go after that attorney for malpractice if need be. So that's just kind of my preference. So again, I can only speak from what I would do in the future if I need to say I need to hire someone who is a specialist in environmental law. I would ask the council to approve that hire before I directly rather than going through my firm.
All right, so we really don't have a policy though as to preventing this type of thing from happening with another contract with another solicitor.
Well,
I think that's what my point is here.
I think we need to look at the Cameron and Middleman contract. It may state in there that they hire subcontractors, but that they pay them. I mean,
Yeah.
And so that it may be clear in there. Denise, I know you wanted to speak. So Denise?
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, in the past, we've had other attorneys have people work for them to handle their work. So this is not uncommon, but those attorneys don't charge us. They charge the firm that hired them to help. I think we should look further into this, because if we have paid Cameron and Middleton for the work, then they need to reimburse Jean Scott. And if that's not the case, then we need to look into how she was hired. And I don't ever remember authorizing this.
Okay. I also know that Madam Clerk knows a fair amount about this because she's seen the bills. So I think that between the town administrator and Madam Clerk, they can probably get us some more information. John, and then we'll try and.
Yeah, so the only thing I would say, I mean, if there's no contract with the town, there's no way, shape, or form I would ever vote to expend dollars just on a good faith effort. I mean, if she did the work for Cameron and Middleman, Cameron and Middleman, that's one thing. Go to Cameron and Middleman for the payment. But if there's no contract directly with the town and the town never hired her and there's no record whatsoever of the town approving this hire, there was no vote of the council, then there is no money to be expended. There is no contract. There is no legal responsibility for the town. So I think it's pretty cut and dry there, my opinion.
Okay.
But ultimately, I'd like to see some of the backup and the research that's done on this.
So, Mike, do we need a motion to continue this, or do we just ask to bring it back, or what's the most expedient way here?
I'll make a motion to table it to the next meeting, or whenever we get the information. We can rely on the town administrator to get the information for us.
Okay. Do I have a motion to continue this until at which time the town administrator has more information?
So moved.
I'll make
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Councilor DiMederos,
Yes.
Councilor Driggs,
Yes.
Councilor Clark,
Yes.
Councilor Edwards,
Yes.
Councilor Perry, Joe,
Yes.
Councilor Cook.
yes.
Okay, and I'm a yes. Which brings us back up to item B, under my name, authorization to advertise for town administrator. As we all know, we've been extremely fortunate to have Chris Cotter step in and literally step into the breach here as interim town administrator, but we are approaching the deadline period per charter for which an interim can serve. So I do think it's time for us to go out and advertise. You should have in your packet the job description that we used the last time. Resumes would be due by 4 p.m. on Tuesday, September 1st, 2020. And then you also have the backup for the job description and requirements in the charter. So I'm looking for a motion to be able to go out and advertise. John?
I'll make a motion to grant authorization to advertise for the town administrator position.
I'll second it.
And there's a second from Donna. Discussion, Nancy?
So when is the deadline?
September 1st.
9/1.
9/1? Thank you.
The deadline for which?
For the interim.
No, it's not.
9/30.
It's not 9/1, it's September 30th.
September 30th? Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? All right, there's a motion and a second. Counselor Driggs,
Yes,
Counselor Clark,
Yes,
Counselor Edwards,
Yes.
Counselor Cook,
Yes,
Counselor DiMederos,
Yes,
Counselor Perry,
Yes,
and I'm a yes also. All right, and we'll get Madam Clerk working on that one.
can I, Madam President, one more question? It was my understanding when, so could Chris Cotta also apply for the permanent solicitor at this point? I mean,
Yes, yes, per the charter, he could.
okay,
It specifically states that in the charter.
okay, thank you.
crazy enough to do it, yes.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
as I recall, when he took the interim, he definitely said it was for 6 months.
No, that's actually that's actually not true. I don't believe that. We discussed that the interim position is for 6 months. I don't even think at the time that Chris was willing to say that he would do it for the full 6 months. I think he understood that we were in a pickle and he was willing to step in. But that question was raised at the time. Someone asked, if you're the interim solicitor, are you eligible to apply for the permanent position? And the answer per the charter was yes, in fact, that they are.
But it was
So
awesome. It was
Counselor
also,
Cook actually raised that question.
but it was also my understanding that it was pretty clear that, and I have no dog in this game. That it was. I just want to know what the parameters are here. That it was pretty clear that Chris Cotta was not looking for anything but the interim.
I'm not sure what you mean by dog in the game, since you can't sort of, this seems to be an issue, but
No, I'm not.
I have the floor. Please let me finish. But that question was raised at the time that Mr. Cotta took the job, and it was clarified that any interim was eligible to apply. Mike, you have your hand up.
Thank you. Just to clarify, during the discussion of the interim town administrator, there was discussion amongst the council members of whether or not Mr. Cotter was willing to come on, and was he even going to be, there was discussion that he was willing to come on, but there was some discussion that he was only willing to come on for an interim basis, and that he might not apply for the full position. However, at the time, I believe it was the town clerk at the time indicated that there was that we don't know where that rumor came from, and that there was no such representation made, one way or the other. But there was a general discussion, but there was never. It was very clear that Mr. Carter did not make said representation, nor was he, nor was that a condition of his appointment. I just want to clarify that. And I believe at one point the town clerk said, I just want to make this clear that Mr. Carter never said such a thing. So it was kind of like an assumption that the council was making.
Denise?
Well, I was just going to say that Chris was not in the room during the discussion. And after we no one ever asked him whether or not he was interested in applying. But I do remember the discussion saying that if Chris wished to apply, there was nothing that could stop him from applying.
Right. Okay, so can we move on to our next item, if that's okay?
Do we vote?
Voted.
We
did.
voted. We voted, and then Councilor Driggs had a question.
Sorry, the little one was screaming in the other room. Mike.
Okay. Next item: discussion and votes for possible financial town resolutions and November ballot questions. So,
No, you skipped one. You skipped one.
oh, I'm sorry. Oh, good Lord. Sorry about that, Stu. Recreation Commission's Chair Gil Fillon, discussion relating to fundraising for town farm recreation area improvements. Is Stu here with us?
Yes,
I
He's on
can't
the
find
panel.
information on it.
Hi, Stu.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome.
I will be very quick because I know you got a lot of other things to cover. Just a very brief update and then a question so we can proceed. So far, the Town Farm Renovation Committee has gone through and reviewed 3 vendors. It's available if anybody wants to see the presentations that were done online. The DEM grant, as Chris and I have spoken about, is in the process of getting signed and finished. So close on that piece. DPW director is looking at potential vendors that could help us do the seal coating for where we need pickleball, trying to determine if there's anybody on the master price agreement or if it's something we have to put out to bid. And we're developing a fundraising and marketing toolkit, which is actually why I'm here. So my question, just looking for some clarity, is with other projects or as a recommendation for our group, how do we handle collecting donations from individuals in a way that ensures that we don't have a conflict of interest, that there may be some vetting in there? And I know, for example, like the library has done pavers before, Grinnell's has recognized people that contributed. I'm just looking for some guidance on what I need to do to make sure that I'm above board with everything, and what checks and balances the town council needs from me and from the committee as we proceed.
Well, I can tell you a little bit about what we did at Grinnell's. You probably talked to the library people, and Mike can also speak to this. So first of all, we were very careful not to take any donations from anyone who was coming in front of the council for, with something that the council needed to vote on. So for example, we didn't take any money from Twin River at all because that was sort of not resolved. So anybody who had an active item in front of the council, we didn't take a donation from. We did not take any cash from anyone. And we set up a separate account with the town treasurer, the Grinnell's Beach Fund. So all checks that were received were made out specifically to the town of Tiverton, Grinnell's Beach Fund. And I can find it for you, Stu, and I know Nancy has a copy in the office. There was a donation form that was done. It gave people the opportunity to donate anonymously if they so choose. And finally, I think it had some language on it that the prior solicitor gave to us regarding tax deductible contributions to a municipality if they're earmarked for a specific public purpose. And then we had a thank you letter that went out for every donation, by name with the amount, the date that was received. And then at the bottom, it had a little section that was like a receipt with the same tax language so they could use their copy of their thank you letter, as proof of their charitable donation. And I can get you copies of those materials. I'll have to dig through, but I also know that there are paper copies of them for sure in the town clerk's office because there's a file with all of them in there. I don't know.
And the town treasurer has been very kind in helping us set up a restricted account, and we were exploring with her guidance on how to do online donations as well through PayPal. And so there is an ability to do that. Again, everything is running through the town. None of it's running through individuals.
So I don't know if any of that helps you, but that's what we have. I don't know if the solicitor or the town administrator have any other advice.
The only, I just want to, because this is a town project and a town, funded thing, that's why I think it's okay to use the treasurer. I know early on, we had a private group that wanted to raise money and use the town treasurer as a kind of a clearinghouse, which I was opposed to. But again, this is sanctioned by the town through the recreation committee. So it is a town, so that I don't think there's a conflict there because it's for a town purpose and it's not a private group. So I just wanted to make that clear in case it came up in the future.
Understood.
Don?
So Chairman Gilfillan, I would suggest too, I was just looking on the town's website. If there is information on the project, I think it'd be a good idea for us to get it up there so that we can reinforce that it is sanctioned by the town and people can find it right on the town's website. I'm sure you guys have, all those presentations and sketches and stuff. It would be great to see those online.
So there is a website, which is recreatetownfarm.org, which we can link to that. And the idea is it's meant to be a site that connects, but you're absolutely right. We should draw the connection point there.
That was my only comment. Thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else? Stu, do you have any other questions for us or anything else?
No, just thank you guys. I want to publicly recognize Chris, who has been a huge help to us and putting in a ton of work. So Chris, thank you for letting me use you as a sounding board, if nothing else.
Okay, I'll help you out with this.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Stu. Okay. Now on to item D, discussion and votes for possible financial town resolutions I think that should be financial town referendum resolutions and November ballot questions. And there's only one submission. And one submission from, the council, and it's actually from the town clerk. And she has a request for an FTR resolution regarding restricted election account 1030-6329 to allow unexpected FTR expenses for the delayed 2021 and possibly 2022 to be able to come out of that account. And if you read the backup, essentially the money that's in the restricted election account can only be used for future elections and FTR runoffs if needed. And it's not clear that what the funding will be for, or what the requirement will be for the FTR budget to be held this year. So she's asking for a resolution on the FTR ballot to allow that account to cover any shortfall that might come out of this year's FTR. Nancy?
Oh, I was frankly sort of confused. So in our budget for this year, we had money for the FTR and then COVID hit, but that didn't mean we didn't have money set aside for the FTR. So I'm just not getting what this duplication she thinks is about to happens. I don't understand.
Chris, go ahead.
So let me see if I can bring this to light a little bit. And it's not so much about the duplication. I think it's, and I'll get into why she thinks there might be some overages, but there will be 2 FTRs in fiscal 2021. Fiscal 2020 has ended. It's over. It's done. We didn't have an FTR. We did not have an FTR in FY 2020. So that money got carried over, went to the general fund.
Oh.
So the budget committee is now looking at funding for 2 FTRs because we're going to have one now for the other 3 quarters of FY 2021. And then in May, we're going to have one for FY 2022. So there'll be 2 FTRs in FY 2021. Her issue so much is not the money that's allocated, because I believe the budget committee did put in enough money to do 2 FTRs based on the appropriations of what we've done in the past. It's the methodology for this next one, whether or not she can have it in one venue. Does she have to have it in multiple venues? She doesn't know if the restrictions from the State Board of Elections and Board of Canvassers is going to put more restrictions on her than similar to what they did with the PPP, I think it was, election. So she has a lot of unknowns as it relates to holding an FTR.
All right, so may I speak?
Yes, Donna.
Okay. So under Town Council Resolutions number 4, this must be what she's talking about and what she feels needs to be fixed. So it says, resolved that if the electors at this financial town referendum appropriate a sum for municipal operations or capital expenses that includes an amount to fund the elections account, said amount shall be placed in the restricted electors reserve account to be used solely for the purpose of funding future elections and financial town referendum runoffs if necessary. Funds remaining in this restricted account at the end of June 30th, 2019 shall be carried over into the same account for the fiscal year 2020. So basically, all we need to do is change it to 2021, that wording.
And allow it so it's not just restricted for runoffs, I believe, on the FTRs.
And it says and runoffs. It doesn't.
I think it only applies to runoffs for the FTR.
Used solely for the purpose of funding future elections and the financial town runoffs if necessary.
Right.
I think it's covered by that. I don't see.
I think, Donna, I think that only means runoffs. But my question is, didn't we take a vote just last meeting to continue all resolutions from 2020 to continue on? So don't we already have a resolution for this
No,
year?
No, we haven't
no,
done
because
resolutions yet.
the resolution only covers runoffs as far as the FTR. Denise? You're
You're
muted.
muted.
I
You're
don't know.
still
I-
muted. Okay.
Yeah, I think Nancy just wants to make sure it's not just for runoffs. I think that's what she wants to do. So
Right.
she's just changing it, that wording to that. Donna, the way you read it, I take it it's only for runoffs.
No, it says to be used solely for the purpose of funding future elections and financial town referendum runoffs if necessary.
Right, but
It includes future elections.
No, I think that means elections means like primary elections, if, or whatever. She wouldn't make that distinction. So, because the
Okay.
FTR is technically an election, but it's a special kind of election. So,
Okay.
yeah.
All
So
right.
she's just asking for language to be inserted in that says for future financial town referendums and
Budgets.
future town referendums runoffs if necessary. That's all she's asking for here. So,
To amend that into also- falls.
so
Does
does
she
anyone?
want this wording, Tricia? Does she want this wording that she's putting forth? Does she want that in the resolution?
I think we need to tweak the wording a little bit here. We might need to ask Mike exactly how to add that. I think it
All right.
says where it says future elections and then and runoffs. I think she'd like it to say and financial town referendums and FTR runoffs.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
Well, it seems that Mike and Nancy are going to have to get together to tweak this the way they want it. So if you don't mind, I'm going to make a motion to allow Mike and Nancy to work together to put in this request that Nancy put into current town council resolution on restricted election account 1030-6329, allows use only for future elections and FTR runoffs if necessary. I would like to amend that resolution to also add any shortfall in the number 2 financial town referendum budgets to be held during the year 2021 year only. For that to happen with the help of Mike to make this resolution happen.
Second,
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? In that case, Council Deemederis? Denise, you're muted. Denise?
yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Councilor Clark?
Yes.
Councilor Driggs?
Yes,
Councilor Edwards?
Yes.
Councilor Perry?
Yeah,
Councilor Cook?
Yes.
And I'm a yes also. Which brings us up to item E, several things under Councilor Deemederis, Town Hall. First, discussion on plans to open Town Hall to the public. 2, a discussion on holding open council meetings at Town Hall. And 3, a discussion on AFSCME employee hours at Town Hall. So Councilor Deemederis.
Yes, so I don't want anybody to think that I want to do this immediately. I just want to know what the plans are for this and if anyone has thought about it. Opening town hall, people have asked me when that was going to happen. And I guess this will be addressed to Chris. Are there any plans and what are you thinking?
So currently, there are no plans for a variety of reasons. There are a lot of cities and towns that have not opened their town halls. We are providing every service that we have. It is by appointment, but we're not missing a beat so far as providing any of the service. And the issue boils down to we would have to have a full-time firm here to do cleaning, to have the public coming in and out of this building all day long. We would, for everybody that comes in, we have to clean behind them. So it does create a problem. And a lot of the town halls are in the same boat. So we just don't have the resources here to have, full-time cleaning staff.
But I mean, a grocery store doesn't clean every time someone's at the cash register. I mean, I don't like cleaning the counters, maybe, but I don't understand what kind of cleaning it would entail.
Everything they touch, we have to clean.
That
They
would be
don't do it
just
in the grocery store. I agree with Denise. This makes
that would
no
just be a
sense.
wipe down. I mean, there's so many things open right now, and I don't think they're doing a big. I don't see why, like, you just can't wipe down the counters. I mean, in grocery stores, people are touching groceries, putting them back, and someone else comes along and touches them. I don't know if that would be such a great concern that we'd have to clean it all the time. Maybe at the end of the day.
Oh, I'm not so sure about that, but
Oh,
that's, you know,
but, also, people are concerned because now that they're paying their taxes, a lot of people like to go there, pay their taxes, and get a receipt. And I do know that you have that little box, but they have to fill out the envelope to be mailed the receipt. And a lot of people like to get the receipt in person, not put it in a box. And there's concerns about that.
so we are mailing receipts to people who have requested them. But and we are bringing people in who are paying by cash. We are
Well,
dealing with those.
But they're mailing them, you have to do you have to, you know,
Yes.
do your own envelope. So it's not like they're just mailing it to you. You have to provide or you're not going to get it.
Madam President,
Joe?
I think we're missing is what if our employees get and they have to call out, what do we do in the case? We're not about the employees that are at town hall could get virus and then be out. Now we got to put time or running shorthanded. I think we have to think about that are working there, not only people coming in their business. I think we have to think about our employees.
I don't know, Joe. I can't make out what you're saying.
I think
Speaking
I
of our
understand. I think
employees.
Joe is bringing up the issue and I do understand this and I agree with him. You know, we don't have a deep bench at town hall. We don't, you know, we're not a big city or, you know, a big municipality where, you know, there are 11 people who work in the building official's office or, you know, if someone were to get sick in the clerk's office and the rest of the clerks had to be quarantined, we don't have a really deep bench. So I do think that when you run on sort of a limited staff like we do, you know, if you have people who are sick and then, you know, coworkers who have been sitting in the same space with them and they have to quarantine, it could make life pretty difficult. I will say this, I do understand, at least for the tax thing, that there are some people who find it a little bit inconvenient to have to, you know, fill out the envelope. On the other hand, you know, I haven't had any complaints about appointments. I mean, if you need to do business at town hall, you can get an appointment to do it. I do think, you know, and sometimes myself included, there are a lot of people who sort of seem to go to town hall to kind of socialize a little bit and, you know, kind of wander in and, you know, visit with people and, you know, that's probably not great right now with what's going on. And I also would be very curious, at least with like in the building official's office and the planner's office, because I think one of the things that I've noticed there is that because sort of people previously didn't come with an appointment, sometimes it was hard to get work done because you're working on a project and, you know, every few minutes there's somebody sort of at the door saying, hey, can I come in and talk to you about this? So I think, you know, if there's something that we could do about the tax thing that would make people who really want to leave with a receipt immediately a little more comfortable, I understand that, but I'm comfortable leaving it the way it is right now until the town administrator feels a little bit better about it.
But there's one other issue that we would have to deal with, and that's the whole contact tracing issue. We'd have to know who came in, when they came in, and who they met with, and we'd have to document. We do have to do that to these. No different than any restaurant that does it. If one of our employees gets sick, we are going to be obligated to say who they met with and when. These are all issues that we have to wrestle with. So, you know, I'm not trying to dismiss the fact that I don't want people in here because, you know, we are trying to provide the best service that we can on behalf of everybody that's asked. And we have not shunned away from bringing people in by appointment. But it is a pretty daunting task to have to contain and control everything you do.
Okay, so that's a no.
Trish,
Yes?
this wasn't that I wanted to open it tomorrow. this is that we have to open it at some point. Do we all agree on that? Okay. So if we could just think of the future and at some point figure out when we can do that. I mean, as far as people milling around, we can always put a sign on the door, please in and out for business only, wash your hands. If you're sick, don't come in. Everyone is wearing a mask. I mean, there's other things we can do. I wasn't suggesting that we open it this month or even next month. I just wanted to hear what entails opening and if there was any future plans to do that. That's all.
Okay.
And I'm sure I'm going to have an argument on the next one on holding open council meetings at town hall. I know that Mike has been looking into this. Any opinion, Mike?
Well, I'll just give you what the law is right now, the status of the law. So right now, members can continue to participate as an elected member. Everyone who's an elected member of the council, including the town administrator, has an absolute right to attend these meetings by electronic means. So that's their right to do so. If there were individual members who have health issues or whatever who might not want to attend in person, that's fine. The general rule right now is that you can open, you can have in-person meetings. All social distancing has to be adhered to. So the membership would have to be 6 feet apart at the council table or wherever. The capacity of the room is generally 25%, 25 individuals and or 60% of the total capacity. So you have a smaller town hall where your council chamber is. So therefore we'd have to figure out what that number would be. In addition, the meeting, the meeting would have to be live streamed like this is being live streamed. And if a member did want to participate electronically, we'd have to have there'd have to be an ability for that person to be kind of on the screen at the meeting, and also present, electronically, as well as the people could see that person. There's a term for it. It's just escaping me right now. So those are kind of the general parameters. We are hoping that the governor will I'm not so sure how long the electronic participation is going to last. I think she just extended it for another I don't know if it's 30 days or whatever, but so that's where we're kind of at. But that's kind of the parameter. I will tell you that the city of East Providence, where I currently also am the city solicitor, we've gone to in-person meetings, but we have a large chamber that sits about 100 people, so we're able to spread out.
Well, we can always have it somewhere else because there's other venues that hold more. I think what I'm more concerned about is open public meetings, the public hearings. We're going to have a big budget hearing soon. And there's some people in town that just doesn't have a computer, the know-how to get onto Zoom. And there's actually, if you think about it, there's some people that cannot participate because of the way we're doing it. I know we're covered because of what's going on right now, but it concerns me that there are people that cannot participate. So we do have the high school auditorium we could use. That holds a lot of people. The stage is big. We could somehow manage it that way. But it just worries me when these important issues are going to start coming up, that more people are able to participate, because I know it's hard to believe, but some people just don't have the technology to be here tonight.
Well, in theory, if you have a phone, I mean, all you need is a phone. You don't have to have a computer to.
Yeah, but I know some elderly people that don't have smartphones.
But you don't need it. You can dial in on a landline. You don't need a smartphone on a regular phone. But I do understand. I know, Mike, that there are some places, I thought you told me, that have figured out the technology to have a bit of both. Is that worth looking into, so that even if part of the council was there in person and part of it was there electronically, and same with the public hearing. In other words, someone who is comfortable coming to a public hearing, in person could do it, and somebody who wasn't comfortable but wanted to participate electronically or by, phone could have that option too. Because I think you told me that you attended a meeting that was actually run that way recently.
Yeah, I actually went to a Public Utilities Commission meeting where there were commissioners on the dais, and the commissioners who participated by phone, and they had it set up. I'm not a technology person. There is a way to do it. I just don't know how. I don't know what the cost associated that may be. But I know that it's possible to do. It's just willing to having set up and whatnot. And it would be up to the individual council members, and not whether or not the individual members still want to be able to attend by person or by electronically. That's up to you for whatever reason. I will say that we also have to make sure that when we do have a public meeting, that there are protocols, including temperature checking, and whatnot, that has to go on. So we would need someone to check the temperature as people go in. We did do that in East Providence when we have zoning board meetings and other meetings like that. So there are protocols that need to be followed for the safety of not only the individuals that are elected, but the safety of the public who may be participating. And frankly, we're going to have to figure out, as soon as we have a budget committee, the budget committee submits its budget, we're going to have to figure it out with the FTR, because we're required to have a public hearing, and that will have to be both in person well, it could be completely by Zoom if you want to be, but I think that Councilman Maderas has a valid point that some people may want to participate in that public hearing in person, so we'll probably have to figure out how to do it for that as well.
Thank you.
So if you want Chris and I to work on that, we can start looking into the cost, and it's up to you.
Well, I don't know how the rest of the council feels, but I think for the financial public hearing for the budget, I think that we should consider trying to do some kind of an open meeting. And like you said, check temperatures, do everything that we're required to do. But I think to me, I'd feel more comfortable if people have the opportunity to come to where we are. And not everybody has to be there. And quite frankly, if you want me to check temperatures before I sit down, I'll do it. I mean, I could do that, no big deal.
You are qualified.
I am qualified, and I could even do that, and somebody take over when I have to go to the meeting.
I wonder about whether or not we should consider getting a tent for the FTR here and doing it outside. And more people might be comfortable coming if it was outside, and maybe that would be a way to do it, and we'd get better participation.
That's an idea. You could put it on the football fields, but I mean,
but
it's
how much
expensive
it's
to
gonna
rent a
cost?
tent. It's expensive to rent a tent.
Yeah,
So
we don't have any money.
I have a little 6x6 I can bring.
yeah, we'll put little pump tents everywhere.
I have to sell cupcakes or something.
Yeah.
And my next item is it is a moot point right now, but I just want us to keep in mind that when we do open the town hall fully, and I know we're talking about the hours of Ask Me right now, but during the contracts, we did talk about keeping town hall open one night a week. And Chris wasn't there at the time, but when we do open, we need to look at that once again. I don't want that to be forgotten. That's it.
Okay.
Madam President,
Yes.
I just want to thank you, Denise, for raising these issues. I think they're important and interesting. I just will comment. I for one, have been involved in many of the last FTRs, and frankly, I'm always surprised at the limited number of people pre-COVID who actually show up. But that doesn't mean we can't.
It doesn't mean this year.
Right, I agree, but let's not forget participation has never been exemplary.
That is true.
I agree, Nancy, but I think that we need to offer it up. Though.
No, I understand. I'm not fighting with you at all on that. Yeah.
Well, right now with the casino revenue, when people know that we're in a budget crunch, we might get more people there this time.
Maybe.
Depending on what the budget committee's budget looks like.
Okay, so Moving on, we're going to go to the town administrator, an update regarding the fire department overtime. And for some reason, Chris, do I think that Tim Cavassa is supposed to be joining us for this?
I mistakenly forgot and I just texted him, so he is coming on, so he should be here any minute. And I do have Bruce if anybody has any questions of him as well.
Could we wait until Tim gets here so we can hear the entire,
Yeah.
Sure.
Do we want to take an honest to God, 5-minute break here till Tim gets on then?
Sure.
Okay, so we'll take a 5-minute, and our 5 minutes is up, so we'll get started, and I'm sure Nancy will be right back. Chris, would you like to give us an overview?
So I just want to kind of give a little bit of history to this. Obviously this is something I inherited when I came in here. There was a lot of action things that had happened as it related to this particular provision in the contract before I got here. And I know there was a lot of discussion when this was negotiated by the negotiating parties when this was put into the contract. So, there was some comments made at not the workshop meeting, but the council meeting prior to that, where, it was, I know the fire department has a significant amount of overtime and they will through the months of June, July, and August because of the way the contract is set up. But this provision in the contract was also set up to work hand in hand with Exhibit B in the contract as well. And while there was significant amounts of overtime that happened throughout the year, back in October, the union representatives met with the prior administrator and discussed all this with the existing fire chief. When the questions were raised a couple weeks ago, I went back and I know that we had some discussion about this with the prior employee, and it was somewhat intimated that we weren't treating people fairly, that we're holding two different standards. So I needed, before I could answer this fully, was to finish a full review of everything that transpired as it relates to overtime, and within the fire department. And I think I've given you a fairly concise and complete report of everything that attributed to the fire department overtime throughout the period up until now, or up until the date of this report. So I don't know if anybody has any questions as it relates to the issues in the report or my conclusions. I do know there are a lot of differing opinions about things about this overtime, but right now I really don't have much of a choice, in my opinion, to not exercise that provision because it's not fair for right now, one particular reason, because as an administrator, I am actually causing the overtime. But right now, because we're in 2021, they are not at an average of 2,000 per week into overtime as it is for the entire year right now. But I don't know, I obviously would answer anybody's questions to the best of my ability at this point.
So may I ask a question? Tim, have you had a chance to review Chris's report?
Yes, I have.
Okay, because I do remember there were a lot of discussions regarding some of the circumstances that have come up now that we heard about in executive session as we got various updates as to how the contract was progressing. So I guess we're relying a little bit on you, since you were in the room, to help us sort out some of these things. So have you got any thoughts?
Sure. From my perspective, I can at least tell you, as I had done as we were negotiating it, sort of what happened at the bargaining table and what the language was intended to do and how we got to the language that we got to. And this was a compromise, and it was a compromise that worked hand in hand with the staffing reorganization that the firefighters union proposed, moving from a 3-platoon 56-hour work week to a 4-platoon 48-hour work week. And in moving in that direction, the council's position was we need protections to ensure that overtime will not go back to the levels that it was at when the town operated on a 4-platoon system. And this was a 4-platoon 48-hour system as opposed to the old 4-platoon 42-hour system. So the way the numbers worked out, it didn't seem like overtime would go back to the pre-2015 stage or level, but there was the obvious risk that with the increased hours, the decreased hourly work week, there would be an increase in overtime. So one of the protections that was agreed to was this overtime provision, which really tracked overtime on a weekly basis throughout the year and was designed to not cap overtime, because that's something that legally we can't do, but it provided a marker where there was a running average of $2,000 of overtime per week for $104,000 per year. And the moment that the average went over the $2,000 per week, the mutual agreement between the union and the town was that the staffing level would drop from 7 to 6 until such time as the overtime was back at an average of less than of $2,000 per week or less, regardless of when that happened throughout the year. I can tell you this was a product of a long negotiation. It was a contentious negotiation at times and had its ups and downs because of the significant issues that were involved. But at the end of the day, there was an agreement. And the agreement was that there would be a 4-platoon system. There would be a 48-hour work week as opposed to a 56-hour work week, and that this overtime provision would go into effect. And at that, and an important piece here is that it wouldn't go into effect until the fire department was at full staffing, which I believe was marked as 28. I'm looking at the agreement now. So at the moment that the staffing complement was at 28 line firefighters, that's the triggering event that kicked in the new work schedule and also kicked in this overtime protection. And I would just offer that we had significant discussions. I don't have all of the iterations of every proposal that was passed back and forth, but the negotiations spanned at least two sort of negotiating teams and a different complements of a negotiating team, because there were different council members involved. It spanned such a long period of time, and things that were discussed were carve-outs for overtime. And I know the union had proposed at various stages that certain things would be carved out from the overtime, such as different types of overtime or different classifications of overtime. And what we ended up agreeing upon was language that said overtime shall be defined as all amounts paid to firefighters at a rate of time and 1/2 their regular hourly rate. So the agreed upon language was that all overtime was included. But the parties did say that a lot of this, the agreement was really based on some good faith on both sides. The union made good faith representations that they believed that the new shift schedule would not result in a dramatic spike in overtime, and they believed in good faith that the overtime would remain under the $104,000 level. And the town made good faith representations that both sides really made good faith representations that they would not do anything intentional to drive up overtime. And neither side was admitting that had happened in the past. But part of this negotiation, there was at least an agreement that both sides were going to work to, on the union side, police overtime and make sure that sick leave wasn't getting out of control, and helping the town hire firefighters and helping the town recruit potential per diems and part-timers. And the town wasn't going to take any steps to, intentionally drive up overtime. And that was an arrangement. And the Exhibit B that Chris was referring to was part of the deal as well, where if the provision was implemented early on in the contract, or really at any time in the contract, the parties would be agreeing to meet to discuss what those issues are that are causing the overtime. And it was that Exhibit B was put in place so that the parties would have almost an ongoing discussion and periodic discussions to visit the overtime issue to determine what, if anything, was out of whack, if you will, and why overtime was at, rising or potentially a problem, and what steps could be taken to help reduce overtime. So that's the history of at least the negotiation from my seat at the bargaining table.
Denise? You're muted,
Okay.
Denise.
Jeez.
I'm not really muted. Can you hear me now?
Yes, you're good.
All right.
I'm just razzing you.
The dog keeps barking, so that's why I keep doing that. I just want to give my view on this because I was in the negotiations for 8 months up until November. And then when the new council came, I stepped back and they went there. I was also in the negotiations the last time that this was negotiated, and when we went down to the 3 platoons. The reason for the 3 platoons was our overtime was over $300,000 at the time, and there was something that needed to be done. There was sick calls, LOAs, there was a lot that contributed to it. But one of the things that really contributed to it is when you have the 3 platoons, you have 2 extra men on shifts. So if somebody's taking vacation, if you have a vacation and a sick leave, it doesn't create overtime. So during these negotiations, when they wanted to go back to 4, and Tim was right, it got heated, and a lot of us had concerns that the overtime would go up. We decided, I voted for it after not being involved for the 2 months, is because of this 200, because of what was added to the contract that would give us a safeguard. Now, we talked about a lot of things that would bring up overtime. And one of the things that we had a solution for was per diems. And that was discussed. And those per diems were supposed to be used. So when we only have 8 men on and 2 are out, we could bring the per diems in. I think this all comes down to lack of communication, to tell you the truth. I wasn't aware that we weren't using per diems anymore. I was told that some little Compton guys were doing it, and apparently it stopped. And I understand that there's been 4 ads that have gone out to, and I understand we're paying too little. But I think if that was communicated to us, then we wouldn't have been so surprised when we found out that this wasn't enacted, because I really thought that these per diems were being used. Now, I understand that Bruce and Chris have increased the rate. They do have applications for per diems, and in my opinion, that would be part of the solution. There's some things that administration cannot help, and I brought it up before: vacation time, sick time. That is all what contributed to what happened with our overtime. And we were guaranteed that it would be watched continuously, and we would get, if things got to the point where our overtime is going up, there would be some kind of communication. And that is the problem here. There was no communication over these since January, and I'm not blaming Chris or Bruce, because I don't believe it was their job to do that. But there was no proactiveness. It was just in May, I asked the question, and all of a sudden, oh yeah, like no one was paying attention to it. I'm more than willing to press the reset button and say, okay, it's July now. I saw, I was in Chris's office earlier, and I saw a very draft way that they're going to be tracking it. And I'm sure, and it will come to us at that point, but it's very specific and it has reasons. And at some point, we'll have to say, well, and hopefully this never comes to, but if we can't solve it as a group, the town council, town administrator, the chief, and the union. If we can't solve it, then we'd have to say, well, look, we have to do this for just a small period of time. I think that how this was all handled, it was very much lack of communication. It was very much not paying attention to the contract, not trying to be proactive to try to stop it. It's true, it's July, and I'm more than willing to press the reset button. I have full confidence that Chris and Bruce are watching it. I saw that draft today. You guys are going to like it. It's very specific. It explains to us exactly what's creating the overtime. I just happened to be there and looked at it, and I'm more than willing to press the reset button. But I have to tell you, I'm very discouraged about what happened, because a lot of people spent a lot of time on this and a lot of negotiation. And it's okay that if somebody comes to us and says, well, there's a flaw here and we're going to try to fix it, that's okay. But to totally ignore all our work over that whole period of time, I think that that's unacceptable. But I understand that some of the people involved are not here any longer. I understand that maybe it wasn't in the forefront of everybody's mind. And I think that at this point it is. And I know that Chris and Bruce are on it. And I have confidence that maybe we'll be able to get through this and be able to work on it as a team, and not have the council say to the union, look what just happened, without any communication. And all of a sudden we say, okay, you have to go down to 6. So I don't know if you all agree with me, but at this point, I'm more than willing.
I have my hand up. I just
Yeah,
don't.
I know. I'm
nobody
still
can see
talking.
me.
I'm done. The only thing that I would like is maybe once a month we get some kind of report of what's going on. If there's been meetings, if there's been a way to solve it mutually, and just watch it as we go along, because that wasn't happening, and it's very discouraging. And Donna was there, and Justin was there, and Tim, and a whole bunch of us.
Yeah.
It's very discouraging to put so much work into it, and then no one paid attention to it. And I think that's what bothered me.
Yeah.
Anna?
Yeah. To add on to what Denise has said, negotiations, we sat there with the firefighters. There was really a crisis situation going on with the 56 hours. And we decided that, as the professionals that they are, that Justin came up with a very creative solution to try to meet them at the 48 hours, because the 56, it just wasn't working, morale wise and otherwise. So we felt, let's treat them like professionals, because that's what they are, and see if we can do this. And it saved a lot of money on arbitration. It saved a lot of time. It moved along. Everyone, I think, got along, because we all treated each other with a lot of respect. And the firefighters did deserve to have respect. And I think we got respect in return, that we were willing to work with them. On the other hand, this provision did require careful and close watch. And I mean, we hired someone that was supposed to do it, and apparently it wasn't done. So that lent itself to almost a year of non-compliance. So I have to agree, it needs to be reset. Let's give everyone another chance. I think it can work, but it has to be watched. It's required, and we said that at the table. This is something that has to be looked at very carefully. It requires every 2 weeks that you're supposed to look at it and reassess. And we did say, if there's a problem, it needs to be discussed with the administrator. So there was a lot of stuff that fell through the cracks, so to speak. So now we need to reset it, find out what the problem is, and try to fix it. That's about it.
Thank you, Madam President. So first off, I want to thank the administrator because I think you did a great job putting this together. Very, very thorough, very detailed. And I appreciate your diligence, and I'm sure the interim chief worked very, very hard with you on this as well. Since I was not on the council at the time that the contract was finalized and negotiated, I guess I have two questions, and I would ask our solicitor these. Number one, without seeing the entire contract, are we paying out for unused comp time or vacation time or any of that if we get to the end of the year and say, you know, the interim chief is back to being a captain and he has leftover time, we pay him out at the end of the year for that?
We pay them for comp time. I believe they have use or lose, so they have to use their time or they lose it. On vacation.
So the question I have when it comes to this contract, right, I think it's admirable. We want to keep overtime to a certain amount, but do we know that if every one of our employees were to use their full amount of either comp time or vacation or PTO, whatever the case may be, if this $2,000 per week average is even attainable? Because again, without sitting down here and doing the math, it seems to me like we have these spikes in the summertime when you know our employees are using their time off. I just don't know if it's possible for every single employee we have to use all of their time off in a given year without breaking this provision in the contract.
Trish.
I'll let Denise go.
Let Denise, go ahead,
Go ahead,
Denise.
John, they can, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chris or Tim, but only 2 men at a time can take vacation. Is that per shift? Is that correct?
So only 2 men at a time during the months of June, July, and August.
Right. So
It's only one per shift the rest of the year.
right.
So
That's correct.
you're right, John. There is an issue, but it's not so much they can't attain it all. The ones that have a problem are the ones who are hired on late in the year, so late in the fiscal year. So if they're hired on in May and they get all their time and they have to use it by June 30th, there's a problem.
Yeah.
You know, so, and they could be the junior guys, so they can't even schedule it in. So there are some problems with that we'd have to work our way through, but that's the only problem. I'll let Bruce speak to any other issue, but
I would just say the question, I guess the question would like take the, you know, the odd one-off factors out of it, right? You know, so the junior guy gets in the department and he only has a limited amount of time to use his time, right? Take those out. Let's assume we all have, you know, we have a full staff and everybody's here for the full year. If I'm the lowest guy on the totem pole, do I even have the ability to take time without pushing the department into this threshold?
Yes.
And I don't see it in any of the backup. I don't know if it's possible, and maybe I need to play with Excel to figure out if it's even possible. But it doesn't seem to me like with all the time that these guys get, that they could even, every person would be able to use it, assuming we schedule it appropriately throughout the year. And if that's the case, then this becomes essentially a poison pill in the contract.
So in my view, I believe it can, I'll let Bruce speak to this as well, but my view is as long as it relates to their vacation and their personal time, it's fine. The issues that we wind up with having issues is family medical leave. Right now, we have 3 people between end of June and September that are going out with having babies. I mean, it's just the nature of the beast. But those are uncontrollable because the amount of time they're allowed to take by FMLA can actually, you know, it's not something we can plan on. We can plan on their vacation. We can plan on their personal time, and we can almost plan on their true sick time when they're normally out sick. You know, it's I think they did like 2,000 or 2,200 hours or whatever it was that I have in a report for FY 2020. It's those extended ones that really can be crippling. But Bruce, I don't know if you have anything you want to weigh in with. You're muted, Bruce.
You get the sign, Bruce.
There's definitely. Can you hear me now?
Yes. And just before Bruce starts, for the benefit of people who are watching, Bruce Reimels, who is currently the acting chief, has only recently stepped into the role. So, you know, he's going to talk to us a bit about this, but Bruce was not the chief, you know, during the period of all the time that this was happening. Bruce, go ahead.
So there's enough hours in the year for everybody to take all their PTO. with June, July, and August, with the two guys can both be on vacation at the same time, that certainly, when you have an 7-man minimum with the debit guy, which makes it 8, if the 2 guys that are allowed to take vacation per shift do that, it's an automatic 24 hours of overtime to get back up to that 7, minimum inning of 7. But that's just the overtime. That's just vacation. If somebody else is out, like Chris was saying on, FMLA, or somebody's out sick for the day, or IOD, or, there's obviously other reasons why they're out. Well, those 2 firefighters that are on vacation still have the right to take their vacation. I mean, you can't tell them they can't take the vacation because somebody's out sick the day for that day or whatever. So June, July, and August historically has been 3 crazy months for sure for overtime.
I don't know where that's coming from.
What is that?
I don't know.
That's somebody's phone pinging.
But I don't know. Mine is muted. My phone's muted, so I'm not really sure. Denise?
Mine's off.
You get the sign, Denise.
I'm sorry, the dog is barking at animals, so I have to keep doing that. I also want to say that to go from 3 to 4, the union did have some creative ideas on how we could fix this, and they were very much a participant of it. I just think that it just wasn't watched. I don't think it's anyone's. It's not the union's fault. It's not the people that negotiated this contract's fault. It's just that it just wasn't watched. And there is going to be overtime, Bruce. You're absolutely right. And we talked about that. There's going to be times that we cannot prevent it. And that would be an administrative reason, or the union can't prevent somebody injuring themselves and being out a month. So we did talk about that. So there's always going to be overtime, and that's why there's an overtime account. But we just need to watch it. That's what we need to do.
Right. So Denise, just real quick, you said a few minutes ago, maybe like on a monthly basis, get a report. Are you talking about something other than the report that I would give every month anyways, that you guys get in more broken down? Like, I believe you saw that. That's the report you were talking about?
Yes, that's what I'm talking about, to get that, because when I saw that, that's exactly what we need. That's exactly what we need to look at. And then if any counselors when it's broken down like that, it's so much easier to understand instead of just an overtime report. Sure. So when it's broken down like that, I could look at it and say, well, we need to do something about this LOA, or how long has this been going on? Because that's been a problem in the past too, that LOAs have gone on indefinitely. The lawyer wasn't aware of it. And then when it finally came to his attention, then we addressed it with the employee and other things were done. So that we could, that report that I saw at Chris's today, I think would be very helpful for the council, because it was really, really broken down. And we need to see that every month, and even put it not only as on the consent agenda, but put it as an item so that Chris can say, well, explain it to us and we can ask questions, so that we don't not pull it off. That's what I'm
sure that would be an exec, because we're dealing with personnel at that point, right?
Oh, no. I mean, at some point we might have to go to exec, but
I don't know. Can I speak?
Yes, go ahead.
All right. I'm just wondering if a report to the town council is actually usurping the job of the town administrator, who's supposed to be working closely with the fire chief, as it says in the contract, to be watching this for every 2 weeks and seeing where it's going and to keep track of that. Yes, we can get a report, but it actually belongs in the arena of the fire chief and the town administrator. And if they find that it's a leave or whatever the problems are, they're supposed to pinpoint what the problems are and try to figure it out. Yes, we can get a report, but I don't think it's our job to micromanage the fire department or the town administrator's job.
Trish,
Yes, Denise, go ahead.
I wasn't talking about micromanaging. I was just talking about communication. So that 6 months from now, the council finds out all these problems exist. I don't think we're micromanaging. We sign the contract. The town administrator makes sure that we do it, but that it's followed through. But I think it's our responsibility just to be aware if there are problems, so that we're not hit 6 months down the line with what happened today.
Right, so,
So I have a question.
it's it is I'm just answering Denise, Nancy, I'm sorry.
No,
So
go ahead.
it's once again a communication problem, and not putting the contract the way it's supposed to be working. So all you want the fire department to work closely with the town administrator and then give us a report so that we know what's going on. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay, I get it.
yes.
Okay, Nancy?
And that's what I was going to say. It hits me that a lot of, I mean, I recall when I became a member of the town council, there were a whole bunch of, union contracts that were being negotiated, and Donna and Justin did the firefighters, which is the one we're talking about. And it was a very, very sort of clever and negotiation, and very, as Tim said, the agreements were made on both sides that weren't necessarily comfortable, but they were made. But in fact, if you look at what went on, and this gets to Donna's point, we ended up having a change in the town administrator, there were a lot of changes that were going on, and a new fire chief that then, as we all know, left or was told to leave. I just think there was not follow through in the information that was being given, and the follow up on this contract was not happening. That's my view.
Don?
Is Attorney Cavazza still on the line?
Yes, yes.
Yes, I am. I had it on mute. Yes, I am.
Oh, no worries, Tim. So this contract goes through June 30, 2022. Hopefully, this is just general comment, but hopefully your wheels are spinning as to how we can continue to, manage the overtime budget, considering that once this contract expires, 42 hours is the number that we're working with. So, per state law. So hopefully you've got some ideas, and I don't need a response. I just wanted to make sure I floated that out there to you.
I do, and that's as you know, that will be a discussion in executive session that I'm willing and ready to have, as it will be. We need to work on that more than 6 months in advance of this expiration, so we'll be having that conversation soon.
Thank you,
Madam President. It's my understanding, though, that the overtime is actually low.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
I do think, a little bit to Denise's point, although certainly this year, the prior town administrator was out on fairly extended FMLA leave for some medical issues. And also, then chose to retire. We had a change in leadership at the fire department with a new chief. Chris stepped in to help us fairly late. I do think that one advantage sometimes for the council seeing these sort of reports and things is that, very often when new people end up in the administrator's chair or as a department head, sometimes a little bit of it gets lost in the translation. And, by the council seeing these things, sorry about that. By the council seeing these things, someone on the council may remember and say, oh, whoa, wait a second, there was, something specific about it. So is that Denise's dog barking too?
There's a lot of dogs barking.
This is like the dog barking hour. There's probably a bunny in the yard.
That's coming from your house, Trish.
It is coming from my house. So if you'll excuse me for 1 second, we can continue the discussion.
My grandchildren are being quieter than your dog.
I'm going to go take care of that right now. I'll be back. Denise, would you just take over for a second?
The
Something
dog-
just
the
happened.
dog-
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, something just
Yes.
happened where I just lost picture completely, but it's
We can see
okay.
you.
Do you see
I
me?
see you.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
see you guys at all. Yeah, I'll figure it out in a minute. I think when I was trying to mute it because my dog was barking. So is there any other questions?
Denise, this is Tim Cavazza. May I add one thing?
Sure.
And I wanted to say that Trish had asked me if I had read the report, and I've heard some comments about tracking this, and the acting chief, it seems like he's tracking it to a pretty fine tune. From my seat, that is the best thing that you can do. And the chief can probably add to this from his seat as chief. And I think Chris can add to it really the benefits of it from his seat as administrator. But a component of overtime involves a mathematical calculation that looks at the number of available hours, the number of hours that people have off, the number of the average hourly work week. And there's a component of it, it's not the only one, a component of it that looks at that formula. And if you're tracking it to a very fine level where you're seeing and tracking on a weekly basis where the overtime is falling and what buckets the overtime is falling, that is the best way to deal with any overtime issue. And the town has had overtime problems in the past, and the town has tried several ways to fix those problems. As people have said a few times in this call, overtime will never go away, no matter how many times, how many protections you put in place. It will always be there. And the best you can do is put in as many safeguards as you can so it never gets out of control. And if you're able to track it and pinpoint where those problems are and tackle those problems early, whether it's on management side, on union side, or it could be a lot of it is unpreventable occurrences that happen, then you're at least aware of the problem and you can try to prevent it from getting worse rather than dealing with it after it's already crippling the budget. So I just wanted to add that.
Madam President,
Yes.
I have a question for Tim Cavazza. It's my recollection, Tim, that at the time these negotiations that we're talking about for the new contract that was negotiated came in, a lot of the conclusion was that the firefighters were at a very low in terms of morale and being able to hire firefighters and losing firefighters, and that was part of the negotiation that was being put into place, correct?
That is correct. That was the driving force behind the negotiation from the 3 platoons to the model that's in place now. Correct.
That was my understanding. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from the council? Bruce?
Yeah, I'd just like to say, first of all, thank Chris for the report. Obviously you put a lot of work into that report. But I'd also like to say that the talking on the other side, talking with the union leadership, they are more than willing to sit down if and when there's a problem. They realize and they agree that it was said in negotiations, if there's a problem, both sides need to come together and figure it out. So I'm certainly not talking for them. I'm just letting you know that I did talk to them, and they're more than willing to do that. They don't want to see these overtime issues and problems. And they've also talked to them about a specific Band-Aid, if you will, for the upcoming little while. They have some ideas where they're willing to work out a deal, just willing to help out. I'll leave it at that. So that's all.
Excellent. Okay. All right. Tim, thank you very much for joining us. Bruce, thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim.
You're welcome.
And that brings us to our announcement, comments, and discussion section. Town Solicitor 1, receipt of Attorney General complaint by Councilor Driggs versus the Tiverton Town Council and the town's response, and CRMC withdrawal of 2 applications of commercial viability.
Thank you, Council President. I'll be brief. The town did receive a open meetings complaint, which has been answered. It's self-explanatory. It's in your packet. Just keeping you informed. We're waiting for a response, and they will be in the Attorney General. We'll wait for a decision. And then the CRMC, early on, you remember that there was I don't remember the name of the pond because I'm not familiar with all the Tiverton estuaries, but
Quacket.
thank you.
Yeah.
Donna Cook has been working closely with the CRMC and just raised her some concerns about these 2 certificates of commercial viability that had been submitted based upon their review and the review of the Harbor Commission, and with the input of Donna Cook. I'm pleased to report that the 2 applications have been withdrawn. So there are no current applications for commercial viability for that Nanaquacket area.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I just
Town Clerk.
Okay. I just need to add that Mike is supposed to get back to me regarding a meeting with the CRMC. So we're just waiting for a date for that.
Yes, we are.
So, and then there'll be a full report to the town council on that.
Okay, thank you, Donna. Town Clerk, first the statewide primary, and secondly, the sample ballot.
Madam President,
Yes, Nancy.
I'm sorry, before we move on to Town Clerk, I just had one question of Attorney Marcello on the Open Meeting Act and whether there just appears to be, and I don't know the answer to this, there just appears to me just a little bit of bad optics to have Attorney Marcello being the one representing this particular Open Meeting Act complaint, given his situation in the whole solicitor resume issue and the notice given. I just want to put that out there. I don't have a solution, or it's just a question I raise.
So the just so I can answer that, I'm sorry. This was a complaint that was filed on a December 4th meeting regarding the selection and interviews of the city solicitor. I don't perceive that as a conflict, even though I was selected. It really has to do with whether the notice and the information given was adequate or not. I don't think it would change the outcome of my selection.
And you don't feel the optics?
No, I mean, I did. I've been defending this council from open meetings complaints by other council members since I got here. I did run it by my own firm's conflicts counsel, and they don't believe, and the Attorney General's office, they don't believe there's a conflict, so I have to go by that.
All right, I just wanted to ask the question. Thank you.
I appreciate it. You're welcome. Thank you.
Town Clerk, statewide primary.
Yes, so we have here a nice handy little election dates and deadlines sheet that we've also placed on the that goes over important dates for the statewide primary as well as the general election respectively. And again, this is on the town website. And also we have a copy of the sample ballot for your preview. Any questions?
No, but just a reminder for those watching, the deadline to register for to vote in the primary is August 9th, a Sunday? Is it, that's the deadline to register?
It's been a Sunday before, as I recall, and I questioned it.
Okay.
And it's weird, kind of weird.
You can register online now. That's why Sunday's available.
Okay. There you go. Well, that's just a reminder to anybody who needs to register to vote in the statewide primary. They need to register by Sunday, August 9th. And for the general election, the deadline to register to vote is Sunday, October 4th. Okay. Thank you, Jeannie. And then I think that closes our open session. So I need a motion to go into closed executive session now. Denise, you're muted.
I'd like to make a motion to go into closed executive session, town solicitor, litigation 42-46582, status update and settlement update provision on tax appeal versus Nebegal. Tax appeal case Nebegal versus Tiverton, NC 2012-004.
Second.
There's a second, and I'll take a roll call vote. Counselor DiMederos,
Yes.
Counselor Driggs,
Yes.
Counselor Clark,
Yes.
Counselor Edwards,
Yes.
Counselor Perry, Counselor Cook,
Yes.
and I am also a yes.
Well, you got out the 5 recess.
10 minutes, Joe.
You're all set.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Motion to seal the minutes.
We are now back in open session. So a motion to seal the minutes. I have a motion from Counselor Edwards. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Donna Cook seconded. Roll call vote. Counselor DiMederos,
Yes.
Counselor Clark,
Yes.
Counselor Driggs,
Yes.
Counselor Edwards,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
Counselor Cook.
I have one thing to add. When this is settled, will it be given to the public? Will it be public at that time?
Yes.
You're muted, Mike.
Mike, you're getting a sign, buddy.
It's the
Everyone
best
likes it.
sign.
I feel like I'm part of the group now. Yes, Nancy, all, excuse me, Ms. Cook, all settlement agreements become public record once they've been ratified.
Okay, yes, then.
Okay, and I am a yes. So we will ask the solicitor to make a statement regarding executive session.
Thank you. The council met in executive session for a status update on the Nebegal versus Tiverton case. There were no votes taken. It was more of a status update and to get some general guidance as to the status of the case and potential settlement issues. But no votes were taken and no final decisions were made.
Thank you, Mike.
Motion to adjourn.
Yes, and is there a second?
Okay.
Okay, and we're gonna do a by hand or by voice. All in favor of adjournment?
Yes.